So, hello and welcome to the A Younger Theatre in Isolation series. My name is Grace, and today I will be interviewing Olivia Munk. Hello, Olivia.
Hi, Grace. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. So, Olivia is a director, theatre maker, writer, producer, and entrepreneur. She is founder and artistic director of Part of the Main and co-founder and co-CEO of Part of the Night, which aims to give space to women and non-binary people. Her credits include Stop, which was performed at the Pegasus Theatre in Oxford, the Edinburgh Fringe, and the Cockpit in London, as well as Les Enfants Terribles Award nominated Bloody Mary. Olivia is the producer behind Theatre on Tap, a 24-hour play challenge championing female, trans, and non-binary artists. Olivia's writing is featured in the Inside Arts and the Stage, and most recently, Part of the Main have been running Part of the Grid, online theatre workshops, as well as a digital theatre resources spreadsheet, and they run an online freelancer database. So, Olivia, welcome. How are you?
Good, good. Oh, wow. It's makes me sound a lot busier than I am.
Don't miss anything off.
No, that's great.
So, to begin with, would you mind just talking to us a bit more about Part of the Main, how you got it started, and your aim to make space for women and non-binary people?
Sure, yeah. So I'm American originally, as you can probably hear. And I moved to the UK in 2016 to do a master's. And a friend of mine who was also here doing a master's told me that she had a friend who was interested in theater like I was, who she thought I'd be interested in meeting, and told myself, no, I'm here to do a master's. I'm not going to do theater. Next thing I know, I find myself producing a show in London while I'm living in Oxford. And so I connected with Jessica Bickle-Barlow, who is also American, and had a play that she really wanted to produce called The Squirrel Plays, which is about reproductive rights in America, which is something that I've always been quite passionate about. So we ended up doing 3 performances at the Space in 2017. And then when we had that show on, we decided we needed to found a company around it, and knew that we were really passionate about making room in theater for women, trans, non-binary people, so genders that are less often represented in the professional theater world. And so that's kind of how Part of the Main was born. The name comes from the John Donne quote, "No man is an isle, he must be a part of the main." And we knew we wanted to make women part of the main too, as well as other genders. So that's how it got started. And it's been, about 3 years since we first did that show at the Space.
I've got lots of mates from America who went to drama school with me, and it's like such a hot ticket to be able to stay in the UK.
Oh, it takes up a lot of my waking hours.
Oh, God. So how have the past couple of months, obviously in lockdown, been? I know you're doing a lot online with Part of the Main and Part of the Grid.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of theater makers, we had a lot of our projects canceled. So we had a tour of a new play called Populous that was going to go through Part of the Night, actually. So our sister company was going to go to the Brighton Fringe and a couple other venues around the UK. And then we had Bloody Mary, the show that we were shortlisted for the AYT award. That was going to go to the Fringe with Assembly in August. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll all just happen 1 year later than planned. So the first part of lockdown was scrambling to kind of pick up the pieces of all the cancellations. But then once that got sorted, I knew that I wanted to try and do something under lockdown, something theatrical, but I wasn't quite ready to do a Zoom play. And Bloody Mary and Populist are both kind of immersive interactive productions, so didn't quite translate to Zoom. And so that's when I thought about bringing our Part of the Grid workshops online. So typically they're in person. We've run them since 2018. We're very lucky to have a residency at the Drayton Arms in Kensington. And so we've done lighting there, we've done sound there and stage management in the past, as well as at other locations we've done costume and set design. So I talked to Will Alder, who's always done our lighting and sound, and said, hey, do you think you could do this online? And he said, with QLab and with lighting programming, you can just share your screen. So we kind of gave it a shot, along with a few other workshops about ACE emergency funds, which was free, and also how to produce for a theater company, which the instructor also generously offered for free. And it kind of took off. So I've been running them every month since April. We have 12 this month, which might be my limit, but it's been really nice to see how many people have gotten involved, and it's always so amazing to see instructors do their thing, whether it's in Zoom or in person.
I feel like also, especially the kind of sound and the engineering kind of workshops that you do are so important, because you don't see as many women or trans people or non-binary people in those roles. But I remember from my experience from graduating from drama school, there were loads like on the course, but then when you go to the theatre, you think, oh, hang on a minute, it's not actually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of women, non-binary trans people have had the same experience kind of like I did, where in high school or in college, when you would have the kind of ability to just play around, learn things on the job, learn things for free without much stress, it didn't really seem like something that I could do or that was kind of to me in a way. It was often men who did it. And, 5-6 years ago, it wasn't something that I really questioned, or that frankly a lot of people were questioning. But in recent years, people have. And so I realized that as a director, as a producer, sometimes I didn't really know how to talk to a lighting designer or sound designer to express what I wanted, or making budgets, I didn't really know what was needed. And so that's kind of how they were born, things that I wanted to learn and realized I hadn't had the chance when I was in education. And so it was designed as kind of crash courses for people who either wanted to tech their own shows or who wanted to learn more about communicating with designers. It was kind of a way to kind of go back to uni a little bit and kind of learn in a safe, cheap place.
Yeah. I feel like also what you're saying, particularly when I was doing your introduction, I was like, oh my God, she does everything. You kind of have all the different hats.
Have to.
Have you found, has being a producer influenced you as a director and influenced you as the other hats that you wear?
Definitely. So I think for better and for worse in a way. So I think, before you get into production or you really understand what putting together a production looks like, you can be a bit more fanciful, right? You aren't really thinking about budgets and logistics. But once you learn producing, you learn about, what are the limitations and also what can you make work? And also it's a great way to know that you can put on work by yourself. So I think after I graduated uni and after I left my master's program, I knew I wanted to make work, but I didn't have enough credits really for anybody to give me a commission or give me, a free theater, which is understandable. And so that's when Jessica and I realized we had to learn pretty quickly how to make our own work. And that's kind of, I became a producer out of necessity. So it's definitely influenced my direction in that I feel like I'm more tapped into the industry. And I think I have an understand of what audiences might want or might be looking for, what writers, actors, creators are offering at the moment. So I think it's kind of given me more insight as to what the pulse is rather than just what my interests are, and then find that intersection before I choose a project to put on.
Yeah, no, I think especially in the lockdown, a lot of us have sort of realised, oh God, I have this thing that I want to write, and you just kind of have a little bit of a chance to do it without having the pressure to like write the works of Shakespeare. I feel like sometimes there's too much pressure to do
no King Lears.
So what do you think, what's kind of the direct action that you think needs to change about our current theatre industry to ensure that we do have equal representation which doesn't discriminate?
Yeah, and I think the conversation on that has quite necessarily changed quite a bit in the last, even 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I think that in terms of all types of diversity, so gender diversity, racial and ethnic diversity, class diversity, I think we're having a much larger and more in-depth conversation about it right now than we've ever had before. And so I think something that I've seen a lot of, non-white, frankly, or non-cisgendered theater makers call for is sort of greater work on the behalf of the more privileged for class reasons, for, white privilege reasons, calling on us to do the work to make sure that they can be included in our work. And I think what that kind of the first step, especially for fringe makers who don't necessarily have the commission money or have the funding to, give commissions to people that we need to have more of on stages. I think it's really about seeking out new artists and putting our faith in new artists to make sure that our work and our hiring practices and our casting practices can be more intersectional. So for example, with like part of the main and part of the night, when we did our part of the night launch, which was co-produced by part of the main last year at the Old Red Lion, we knew we really wanted to have a cast and creatives that represented society and not just what we typically see on stage. So we knew we wanted to have trans actors and non-binary creatives with us. And it's not really enough to just put out a notice and say, you know, LGBTQ or BAME encouraged to apply, because that's not doing the work. So we, you know, called the Queer House, which is an agency that specifically represents a diversity of genders and sexualities. We reached out to a number of organizations to see if they could put notices on their newsletter so we could reach those artists. So it's about putting the work in, because, you know, certain privileges mean that people like me don't really have to do that kind of work, right, when I'm looking for a job. And so it's my responsibility as a director and producer to do that work. And I think that that's something that a lot of fringe artists should consider doing, or emerging artists, because before we have the funds, our gatekeeperness that we have is to make sure that we're giving opportunities to the right people. And it's not, and that doesn't mean people that look like us.
Yeah. And also, I guess with giving the opportunities, it's not just say, this is an equal role, you know, offered for anyone. You've got to go out and make sure that those opportunities are given to everyone.
Exactly. And it probably means taking a chance on people who maybe don't have the credits that you normally would be looking for, but think about why don't they have those credits, right? They're probably just talented. You just kind of have to take a risk on people. And I've never not had it work out.
Yeah, no. It's totally that classic thing of like needing the experience to get a job, but then not being able to get your first job because you don't have the experience.
Exactly.
So with your online workshops, what do they actually involve? If I was to come to one of your workshops, what would I be met with?
Sure. So right now, with social distancing guidelines, they're all on Zoom. So all you need is pretty much an internet connection and the ability to download Zoom. So the workshops, we typically price them at about £8. This is to ensure that we can pay our instructors, which is something I'm really passionate about, paying freelancers for their time and paying them well. So pretty much all that, the money that you pay for a course goes right to the instructors, and maybe for the Zoom license. So their workshops are usually 2 hours long. Sometimes they're 3 hours. And they're all really based on practical approaches to a topic within theater. So we don't really do panels. We don't really do conversations. I'm really about kind of giving people tangible skills that they can then apply to their own work. So for QLab workshop, it's going to be 2 hours of intensive learning how to sound design with QLab, or learning how to do video with QLab, and, you know, taking some time also to play around with it yourself. We have coming up ones I'm really excited about, marketing and PR, where the respective instructors, Izzy and Laura, will teach participants how can you make a marketing or a PR campaign for your theater production or theater project. And so participants need to be able to leave the workshop with the ability to go ahead and do that. So I always make sure that when I'm talking to instructors about a workshop they want to run, that they have to think about what's the interaction going to be with your participants, what exactly are they going to learn, and how are they going to learn it through the workshop, and most importantly, what's the takeaway? Because I think there's been an abundance of Zooms that are really well-intentioned but not well-structured. So I really want to make sure that I'm putting out something that feels like that the participant doesn't have to be an active structural component of the Zoom, right? You can actually really enjoy just learning something, but also be engaged in a way where you can take something away and actually having gained a new skill after 2 hours on Zoom, or at least the beginning of that skill.
I've got ADHD, so I can find a lot of these Zooms so daunting. When I see Q&A, as much as I'm so sure I will learn so much, I find it really daunting to think, okay, I'm going to have to sit here for like 2 hours. But I really like the kind of active sense that your workshops suggest.
Yeah.
So once lockdown is over, what's in the pipeline for part of the main?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And to be honest, I don't really know. Obviously, it'd be amazing to have the workshops in person again, but that relies on so many factors, right? Social distancing. Will spaces where we can rent rehearsal rooms and to deliver the workshops be open? Will people be interested in attending a workshop with other people that they don't know in a room? But also, I think that in a way, it's been quite a blessing to be able to do these Zoom workshops because we can reach more people. We've had people from Singapore, from Hong Kong, from all over the UK. So I think probably we'll end up doing workshops that will be a mix of in person and also online, depending on kind of what our participants say they're interested in. I really am a big believer on before I put out a product, ask people what they want. Particularly because these workshops, they're not for commercial value. They really are for the theater community. I am trying to think of what theater can we do under kind of graduated lockdown conditions. You know, can we do theater in parks now? Can we do theater outside or on rooftops? It's so hard to plan right now, but I think that it will make people more creative, and it's a little bit like reinventing the wheel, but I imagine inventing the wheel was exciting. So
I feel like, I guess also what's so unique about theatre is it's like, okay, well, we can't even think about what it's going to be like in 3 months because unfortunately I don't think that it's going to be able to go back to normal in 3 months. It's going to be a really long time before we can do it as we were doing it before.
Yeah.
You mentioned about how the workshops, they've been really good, and I guess because they're from the accessibility side, how you don't have to sort of be in London, which is a massive thing, or travel, or, you know, there are other costs which come with getting to a workshop in central London. Do you think you'd carry them on once everything's back to normal, keep them going?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think particularly with the workshops that you wouldn't often find, say, at a local theater or a local kind of actor center, I think that the fact that people keep coming to them month after month tells me that they're not being offered, or people haven't really been engaging with that skill set that they want or need. What I'd really love to do in the future, once Arts Council opens up again, is to connect with kind of regional theaters or regional fringe theaters, pub theaters around the UK, to be able to bring workshops to those locations and to be able to offer them for essentially the same price as a Zoom workshop in different parts of the UK, partly because I'd love to see more parts of the UK and connect with more theaters, but also I think that accessibility is huge and it's so London-centric. And I think that in a good way, lockdown has showed us that theater doesn't have to be location-based. You know, National Theatre just put all their upcoming lives on. And even though I live in London, I haven't seen a lot of them for a lot of different reasons. I'm sure a lot of people around the UK and the world have never even engaged with a National Theatre production before. And so it's shown us that we have been underutilizing, I think, digital options and been too focused maybe on central locations for theatre. And it should be more mobile. It should be more digital.
Definitely. So I have set up a little finish the sentence game for us to play, just for a bit of fun in this chaotic time. So if I say the first half of the sentence and then you complete it with your answer, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So the first one is, my top 3 dinner party guests, dead or alive, would be...
Okay. Mary Tudor, because I'm working on a show about her and I'm a little obsessed with her very tragic life. I'd like to ask her what it was like to be essentially the first child of divorce. Julian of Norwich, who is someone I'm working on a show about as well. She was an anchoress, meaning she essentially lived in a cell during the plague in the 14th century, and I feel like she would have some lockdown tips. And Michelle Obama. Just love her.
I just watched her documentary, and even the bits which weren't sad, I just cried the whole way through.
She's just great.
My favourite thing to cook is?
Pasta.
Just straight out. Love it. The anthem of my lockdown has been?
Anything by Lizzo.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The hardest bit of my lockdown has been?
Staying in my room so much. I'm a little tired of these walls.
My current number 1 book recommendation would be?
Meaty by Samantha Irby. She is a
Mm.
comedian and essayist, and it's like a comedy show in a book.
My favourite show of 2019 was...
Oh, 2019. Probably Schitt's Creek. I'm half Canadian and love repping Canada.
My favourite TV show is...
Oh, Arrested Development.
And finally, the world would be better with more.
Wow, that's so hard. I'm trying to think of the non like Miss America, more peace kind of. I think more understanding, probably just other people and what's going on.
What are you most looking forward to doing when the lockdown's finished? Or not lockdown anymore, but the pandemic.
I really want like a properly made pitcher of Pimm's. I tried making it at home, but it's just not the same.
No, it's not.
Ratio of like mint and strawberries and lemonade, right? I just want to pay someone to make me a drink.
We should have a party when this is over with Lizzo and Pimm's and Schitt's Creek playing in the background.
Yes, I would love that.
Oh, wicked. Thank you so much, Olivia.
Thanks so much, Grace. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.